Today, I'm going to be flying with Porter Airlines, which is one of Canada's fastest growing airlines.
This is going to be my first time flying with them, and I'm pretty excited considering all the good things I've heard online and from friends about Porter. Now it's time to see if it's actually worth flying or not. So I'm taking a trip to New York City, and I decided to fly Porter because I live in downtown Toronto and they have departures from Bishop Airport. So full disclosure, I was gonna buy a ticket myself, but I decided to send Porter an email to see if we could work on a flight review, and they agreed. But don't worry though, I'm still gonna give my honest review about my flight experience and tell you if it's worth the hype.
The flight I will be taking is flight PD 2125, departing at 7:55 a.m. from Toronto and landing in Newark at 9:25 a.m. The plane Porter uses for this route is the Dash 8-400, which is a 78-seat turboprop. It has a 2-seat per row layout,
so you either get a window or an aisle seat, which is a major plus. They've been flying this route for over 16 years and do up to 10 daily round-trip flights. Also in 2023, they launched a new round-trip service from Ottawa to Newark.
This is my first time at Bishop, so I made sure to arrive a bit earlier than usual. Since the airport is on an island, I could either take a ferry, which comes every 15 minutes, or take an underground tunnel. I went with the underground tunnel because it's pretty dark outside. I took an elevator down and walked for about 5 minutes. After a couple steep escalator rides up, I was in the airport. As soon as I got to the top, I saw a huge Porter check-in area right in the middle of the Canada and US departures. And I guess that's because Porter is the main airline flying out of this airport. I was able to bypass the security line because I had a special Visa credit card, but the line wasn't that long anyways. After we finished security, we proceeded to the gates, and the whole process of arriving to the airport and going through the gates took about 10 minutes. I took a quick look at the departures board and everything was departing on time, which is great to see.
One thing to know, and something that I didn't know, is that in this airport, they don't do US customs, so you'll have to do it as soon as you land.
So this is where the gates are at the YTZ airport, and honestly it gives a feeling of an airport lounge. They have a variety of different seating options such as tables and couches. They have a convenience store, a coffee shop, and a duty-free store as well. Now let me give you some information on Porter. Porter's slogan is to actually enjoy economy, which is why they offer an elevated all economy service.
For this plane, they have two options of seating. One is Porter Classic and the other one is Porter Reserve. Porter Classic comes with free premium snacks, beverages such as beer and wine, and lastly free Wi-Fi, but that's only on their E195 jets, which we're not flying today. For Porter Reserve, it comes with the same benefits as Classic, including dedicated check-in, early boarding, extra legroom, checked bags, flight changes, and fresh meals on longer flights. For this flight, I'll be flying Porter Reserve. Besides the extra legroom and checked bags, there really isn't too much of a difference in the flying experience between the two seat options for this flight. From what I've seen, Porter's pricing varies, so it could be either cheaper or more expensive depending on the date and the location that you're traveling to. But for me, I honestly wouldn't mind paying a bit more if the airline is reliable and they have good customer service. Once I got to the gate, I went straight to the boarding desk for ID verification and they printed me a boarding pass. I was traveling with a friend who was sitting 15 seats behind me, and I asked if they could give us any seats right next to each other.
The Porter rep Gurpreet was able to move my friend right behind me, so shout out to her. There's another plane leaving at 6:55 a.m. and they offered everyone on the same flight as us to board that flight. My friend and I decided to stay, but other people went and boarded that flight.
Right after they departed, I went up to the front desk to ask if they had any seats available now.
Before I even got to ask, Gurpreet had the tickets ready and gave them to me.
Honestly, I was pretty impressed by their customer service so far.
Now everything was fine until they announced the flight will be delayed due to maintenance issues.
This gave me PTSD because my last two flights with Air Canada were cancelled in the same way.
Luckily, we were able to board at 8:05 a.m. and took off at 8:30, so it was only about a 30-minute delay. It was finally time to board, so I made my way to the check-in desk. The tunnel to the plane had a spectacular view of the CN Tower. There was also a bag check station right before walking onto the plane. This plane was on the smaller side and had narrow aisles, which made getting to the seat a bit tight. My seat was 2A, which is the last row for Porter Reserve on this plane. Even though my carry-on fit, I had to use a bit of force to get it in there because the luggage departments were on the smaller side. I was able to fit my backpack underneath my seat and still have a decent amount of legroom. For reference, I'm 6 feet tall and the backpack was pretty big. You get 32 inches of legroom in Reserve as opposed to 30 inches in Classic. And here's a spec sheet for the seats. The tray table was a decent size but pretty thin. I wouldn't recommend resting your head on it. In the pocket below, you'll find a card that shows you're in Porter Reserve. This is what it says on the inside. A safety instruction pamphlet for the plane, a barf bag, and a Porter magazine, which also has a map of the places they go to. It honestly has some interesting articles, and I'd definitely recommend skimming through it, especially considering this plane doesn't include the free Wi-Fi. At the front of the plane, they have a section where you can store coats, which is pretty cool. This is what the other seats look like. They do look a bit old. This plane did have LED lighting, which is nice to see. Located above me was a light and AC. And this is the view from my window. I can see a bit of the propeller, and the window cover was easy to slide down. The reserve seats are in blue as compared to the other seats on the plane. You have a movable armrest in the middle, extra cushion seats, and a headrest. For some reason, the middle of the seat dipped back and was pretty uncomfortable during the trip. And this is what the legroom area looks like. The view you get from this airport is amazing. And now it's time for takeoff. The propellers were pretty loud and had a constant humming sound, but I didn't mind it too much since I had my AirPods in.
Get a video.
The flight attendants started serving snacks and beverages a little bit after takeoff. They were really nice and had cool uniforms. Our snack options were chips, a shortbread cookie, and almonds. My friend and I chose to go with the chips and the cookie, and for our beverage, we chose water. The chips didn't really taste that good because they're just plain potato chips, but the cookie was amazing. It was a shortbread chocolate chip cookie and it was so good and knew I had to order the whole pack as soon as I came home. So the drinks and snacks that they offer are from Canadian companies, which I really liked. Later on, I went to go check out the washroom. Unfortunately, the sink wasn't working, so they put out hand sanitizer instead. Luckily, I didn't have to use the washroom. The washroom was really small, but that's how they've been on most planes I've flown recently. Other than that, the flight was pretty good. We landed in an hour and 13 minutes after takeoff. We had a smooth descent and overall it was a pretty good flight. I'd rate it a 7 out of 10.
Unfortunately, I had to take an early flight back due to a medical emergency caused by a hotel, which a video on that will be coming soon. So I landed on September 12th and was supposed to go back on the 16th, but due to that medical emergency, I had to book a flight back on the 14th. So it was September 14th and I called Porter to see if they could put me on the earliest flight for that day. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait too long on hold and they were able to accommodate me on the flight that I wanted. It was a very refreshing experience considering I was going through a lot at the time and they made my life just a little bit easier.
The flight on the way back was delayed an hour due to fog covering the Billy Bishop Airport. I checked on Google and I saw the flights before mine were cancelled, but I'm not too sure why they were. It could have been due to the fog. For some reason, when I boarded the plane, my carry-on luggage wouldn't fit, so I had to check my bag. The flight attendant on this flight, I think his name was Carlos, was very full of energy and very nice, which I really appreciated. The rest of the flight experience was the same. I got the same amazing cookies again, but this time I got orange juice and they served it in a glass cup, which was a nice touch. We landed an hour or so after takeoff and then I went to bag check to collect my bag.
Overall, I would fly Porter again, even though I did experience delays on my first flight with them. Besides the really good tasting cookies, they have top-notch service and they really show that they do care about their customers. All the bigger companies in any sector forget that their customers keep them in business, which is why I want smaller companies like Porter to challenge the bigger guys to help them be better. I definitely recommend you guys try Porter at least once and see if you guys like it as much as I did. They have a bunch of destinations that they go to. Here's the map of all the places they go to. They basically cover most major cities in Canada and the US. I also flew with them on their E195 jets, which are the bigger planes, on a flight to Vancouver. That video will be coming out shortly after this one and I'll have it linked in the description and at the end of the video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below and make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.
Talk to me, baby, talk to me.